Hello, so today I thought we'd have a go at making a junk journal. I make these quite often when I'm sorting out my scrap pile, when it just gets too overwhelming and there's too much in it. Being a paper crafter and a mixed media artist, I don't throw paper away, which is sometimes great, sometimes gets to be a bit of a problem because I get too many scraps. When I do, I have a grand sort out and make some junk journals. I'll show you a couple of ones I've done in the past. This is a vintage style one because it's made out of, as you can see, the cover of a shell map of Italy. The closure is a little bit of corrugated cardboard that's been stamped on, and then the pages are just random pages. You can see I've started using this journal. I write in it, doodling it. They're just all sorts of random pages. It's got a vintage feel to it. Some of these I might work over if I'm not very keen on them. Sometimes it's just for trying out stamps and things. Do a little bit of journaling, some stamping, more journaling, trying out the look of new stamps and washi tapes, mark making, whatever I feel like at the time. As you can see, there's all sorts of different types of paper in them. You can use up scraps, you can just hoard scraps of particular colours. I do tend to have mine in colours, sort of this is all vintage colours. But you can do whatever you feel like. I always put this closure on my junk journals because I tend to hold them together with string and have the closure as string, and when it's quite tight, just tie this, so you tie it to keep it together and closed. As you can see here, there's a little bit of stress, and if that was just this it's quite strong cardboard, but it would soon damage the edge of the journal, so I put this closure on that just wraps around so that it just protects that edge as well. So that's one type. This is a more modern looking one. Again, I've held it together and done the closure with string, just with twine, which I actually like. But you can do baker's twine, the thick embroidery, cotton, wool, whatever you want, as long as it's not too stretchy, it's fine. This is just scrapbook paper that I've used for the cover. This was a strip of masterboard that I made for some journal prompts cards, and I had this bit left and it just had this turquoisey colour in it which matched up with the cover, so I used that up for the cover. I've started to use this journal as well, so as you can see there's a couple of pages, 2 or 3 pages done, but there's also lots more pages to work on. And as you can see, they're all different sizes, so that if you just want to do a little bit of journaling on there, or a little bit of artwork on there, journaling on here, artwork, you can just choose what you want to do on each page. There's just a real random mix of scraps of even some painty papers, which were just using up paint, just so it wasn't wasted. I just applied it to some scrap and then it's gone in there, and that will start the page off. So that's a more modern looking one, but again it's got the same string to close it. You just wind it round. I tend to end up at the spine, but it doesn't really matter. Then just use the twine to hold it together. So there we are. So that's another type. That's a bit bigger than the first one. So I'm going to get my self-healing mat, because this is a glass mat and I don't want to mark it. I've got a screw hole punch, which is an X-cut one, which is very good, and it comes with 3 different sizes of punch, which are interchangeable. The others live in the end there. A small, medium and large. I'll use the large because I think I want to put string through my journal pages. You can, if you haven't got one of those, use something like a bradawl, or this is just like a pokey tool. It's just a cheap one. It was about £1, I think. Just to make, it's something to make holes, basically. I've gathered a selection of pages that I want to use for this journal together. All I did was choose random papers and scraps that I thought would work well together, and I've just folded them in half. I've gone along and folded every one just in half equally. I've mixed them up so there's all different sizes, some painty ones, some book pages, some pages out of a sketchbook with this nice perforation at the bottom, which has got a bit of doodling on. There's a book page from a damaged book that I use the pages out of. Some scrapbook paper, which was nice for journaling, which is patterned on the other side. Tea stained paper, turmeric stained paper. A mop-up page from when I've been using Indian ink. This is a die cut page, which I thought looked quite pretty against the white there. Even envelopes, old envelopes. You can use those. I'm just going to fold this one in half. It's been opened across the edge with a paper knife, so it's nice and straight, so that when it's in the journal it can be a pocket. I can decorate around here and use this as a pocket, and obviously the other side will also be a pocket as well. What else have we got? We have just some scrapbook paper and more scrapbook paper. These were just in my scrap pile and I thought all the colours worked quite nicely together. So they are all folded in half. What I need is a cover now. I could use this as a cover, but it doesn't quite cover my envelope, so it's not quite big enough. So I need something that will be bigger than the pages. So we'll set that aside at the moment. I've got a few of these, which my husband gave me. They are old document wallets, but they were so damaged at the edges and frayed and ripped that he couldn't use them anymore, and he was getting rid of the paperwork in them. So rather than throw them out, he said, could I use them? So I cut the damaged edges off, which were obviously keeping the documents in. So I'm left with this. So what I've done, I've cut one up so that I've got a cover for my journal. I've got some more pieces left which I can use for more journals. That would make a nice little journal cover, just this small piece. But this one, it's a little bit marked on the what was the outside, so I've turned it inside out. And I've made it so that it is slightly larger all the way round than all my pages, so that when it's closed it completely encloses all the pages and there's a little bit of a gap all the way round. It'll be quite a plain cover, but then I can add scraps to it, stamp on it, whatever I wish to do. So for the moment we'll set the pages aside and we'll work on our cover. So this is going to be the spine of the journal, where we'll put the pages together. So we need to measure along there. Well, it's just shy of 18 centimetres. And what I need to do is I need to mark 3 equal holes. Let's get a pencil. So 18 divided by 4 is 4.5. So 4.5, 9, 13.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got about 4.5 centimetres in between each mark. So I've got 3 marks. 3. So whatever that measurement is, you divide it into 4 and that gives you where your marks will be. I'm going to use my screw hole punch, but you can use your pokey tool or whatever. And I'm just going to directly on the crease, I'm going to drill holes. Make sure I've got it all the way through. So if you can see, that gives me 3 equally distanced holes in the cover. I then need to make holes in all the pages the same. So I find the easiest way of doing this is to do them individually and put the page, you can do this by eye because it doesn't matter if they're exactly in the middle, so that your pages are right into the crease. Just a little bit higher. Then put it so your page is underneath your top cover and go through the holes again, so that the holes on your pages correspond with the holes on your cover. So can you see you've got 3 holes? I'll do that with all the pages. So I'll set that aside for now. Put that one over there. And get the next one. Line it up again. Flip it over. And again, you've got 3 holes down the centre. And we keep doing that until we've done them all. So I'll stop the video now. I'll do all the holes and then we'll continue. Right, so I've got the holes made in the centre and at both sides on all the pages. If you vary a little bit, a tiny little bit, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be to the millimetre, but try and get them as near as you can to equal, because it does make life easier. I've got my cover with the holes. I'm now going to try and line those up with the holes in the pages. This is where something like this comes in handy, because you can make sure that it will go all the way through, so you've got your holes lined up. Once you are sure they are all lined up, I tend to put a bulldog clip on 2 sides just to keep everything in place. It is a lot easier. Make sure your holes are lined up again. I'm going to use this twine to bind mine this time. So I've got quite a long length because it needs to do quite a lot. In fact, I think I maybe need a bit longer than that. You need more than you would think. So for ease, I would say start with 1.5 yards or 1.5 meters and then go from there. You can always cut it off, you can't add it on. So what we need to do is make it so these ends won't fray all the time when we're feeding it through here. I do two methods. I either get a little bit of PVA on my hand, put the end into the PVA, completely coat it, and then just roll it between my fingers to a slight point and let that dry, because that will stiffen it a little, but it'll also make it so it won't fray. If you don't think it's done enough the first time, do it again. You just roll it between your fingers so it makes a point. You can also, if you find it easier, get a little bit of washi tape, just thin washi tape, and just wrap it round the end of your twine. This is a bit more bulky, so it isn't ideal, but if you can't manage with the glue method, this is okay. So you just want to make sure your washi tape is completely round all the way around, and then roll it again between your fingers to make it into a point. As I say, I find the glue method better, but whatever works for you. Now we need to find the centre point of our twine, and then I always have to think about this bit. So we need to go from the outside of our book, our journal, and you need to feed this through the hole. Once it's got part way through, you can pull it through. The other end needs to go through the other hole. I don't know if I've got this lined up correctly. This is why I say that washi tape is a little bit bulkier, so it's not always as easy, but it has come through. So you've got your two ends, pull them equally so you've got an equal length of twine at both sides. The next bit is the most difficult bit, because you've got to get both ends back through the centre hole. That one has gone quite easily. I find it easier once you've got the first one in to pull it to a side and then thread the next one through, which is the most difficult bit. Sometimes you can poke it through a little bit, give it a bit of assistance. Through nearly. Sometimes you can just see it, and sometimes tweezers is quite a good thing to have at this point to pull it through. See if I've got my fine pointed tweezers. Doesn't want to come, it's being obstinate. Just give it a push from the other side again. Got more likely to get it now. That's it. Right, I've got that wrapped around there, which I don't want. So that one and that one. Yeah, that's about equal. So we've got both of our ends through the centre hole. We've got this one here, which is the one that goes across. So you want your ends to be either side of that. So then we tie them. Having made sure that the back inside of the book is nice and taut. So we tie them, I usually tie them in a double knot and then it doesn't move. There we are. So just to recap, we started on the I'll take these off. We started on the outside. We went through those two holes, the outside holes, and pulled it to the centre of the book. We then took both ends through the middle hole so that they ended up here. We then tied a double knot enclosing this one here, so that when you fold your book, you have something to tie it. Now I actually like at this stage to put something to protect this edge, because otherwise it gets very, very tatty, because the tie sort of works its way on this edge and it makes it so it's very, very tatty and just not nice. So I could use part of this that's left over. I could use, this is a scrap of wallpaper. That would do, that would look quite nice. I think I am going to do that. And what we need to do is, you need a reasonable flap, because the more you work on your pages inside, the more this will need to expand. So we'll have a reasonable amount, say there. Now because I've got this in the middle and this is striped, I'm going to try and just line it up with that. Get those out of the way. So my knot is there. So that's about lined up, I think. Maybe just a fraction higher up. Fraction more. So that when I tie this round here, it will be on there. Yeah. So we don't stick the protective strip to the front, but we do stick it on the back. And I just use PVA. I tend to go not right the way up to the edge, or else you get it on your book and then it seals your book shut. But I just do it a fraction in. And then all the way around the edge. There we are. Spread it out a little bit with my fingers. And then we'll just go onto the back of the book. And you can add as much decoration to the front cover as you want. You can make your journal and then stamp on it, decorate it, decoupage it, whatever you want to do. But you see, the idea of this is that it folds over there, and then when our journal is being closed with the string, one going one way, one going the other way, then you can pull it as tight as you want and it doesn't dig into the edge of your journal cover. It is protected by this strip. I have in the past, when I've made journals, put beads on the end of the twine. You can do whatever you want. You can decorate it however you want. You can just leave it plain. You can just tie a knot. I quite like sometimes, because sometimes I tie it at that edge, sometimes I tie it here. But sometimes I'll just tie a knot in the end, cut it off, that's cutting the gluey bit off, and just fray it out, and that stops it fraying anymore, but you get a little decorative end to the twine, which is quite nice. So that looks quite pretty, and then we can tie it nearer to this edge if you wanted. Whatever and however you want to adapt it to your journal. You could make these out of really nice papers and put some lined pages in and not have a junk journal, just have a sort of a journal just for people to use for a little bit like a diary for a week or a month or whatever. And you would use nice papers and nice lined paper or plain paper so they could do journaling, but they could also decorate the pages. You could make one and decorate the pages. It's very adaptable and you can use it for whatever you wish. And I've just noticed that my envelope is upside down, but doesn't matter, my closure will just go that way. So I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you give it a go. Right, so we've got our journal finished. I've decorated it by just doing some random background stamping, just to make it less plain and just a bit more interesting. I have actually, I'll show you, do it. I've backed the inside of this flap to make it a little stronger, and I've also stuck a little tab on there. That's just some of my own tissue tape with some book pages underneath, just to make it a bit more interesting as well. So because I'd got the envelopes upside down in the journal, I did actually make another one of these. It was on the front, so I've just stuck that in there and put one on the back, like as I did in the video. So now my envelope is the right way up for a pocket. So I hope you like that and give it a go.